Welcome back to Workplace Clinic, where we discuss workplace issues and solutions. My name is Wally Abularan. Why HR is always in the crossfire and nobody's protecting them. Okay, so let's jump right in, shall we? Today we're unpacking a really fascinating and honestly totally misunderstood dynamic in the modern workplace. If you've ever spent time in corporate America, or really any corporate environment at all, you've crossed paths with HR. And yeah, you've probably heard people complaining about them. But in this explainer, we're going to dig into the actual systemic traps that put these folks in a completely unwinnable situation. Let's do it.
Think about it for a second. Who is the one group that universally catches the blame, literally no matter what side of the desk you're sitting on? Things go wrong and boom, who gets it? Yep, human resources. They are the designated lightning rod for the entire company's frustration. But why? Why is this one specific department always in the crosshairs?
Well, it starts with being caught right in the middle.
To really get this, we've got to look at where they physically sit in the corporate structure. They're trapped directly between two massive opposing forces. On one side, you've got employees firing off criticisms, right? Stuff like, HR just doesn't care, or they're just management's puppet, or they only exist to protect the company. But then, you flip the coin. Upper management is looking at that exact same HR team and complaining, HR is way too soft, or why can't you control the staff? Or people are slacking off and HR is just letting it happen. They're getting dragged by both sides for the exact opposite reasons.
Which brings us to this truly impossible balancing act.
Seriously, think about their daily reality and the massive weight of the expectations on their shoulders. HR is supposed to magically make the staff happy while simultaneously keeping leadership perfectly satisfied. They've got to enforce these super strict company policies, but also, organically foster a fun, positive culture. They need to improve retention, manage huge organizational risks, and somehow, maybe through sheer magic, stay completely neutral through all of it. So let's just be real for a second. How? How is anyone supposed to pull off all those contradictory goals at the exact same time?
And here's the plot twist that literally nobody talks about, and it changes everything. HR is also an employee. We kind of have this habit of viewing HR as this faceless corporate machine, right? Like they are the literal embodiment of the company itself. But actually, scratch that. They are just regular human beings on the payroll. They have their own performance targets they have to hit. They need their paycheck to feed their families. And crucially, they can get fired just like anybody else in the building.
This perfectly illustrates the trap they fall into day in and day out. Because they're employees just trying to survive, when an HR rep actually steps up to advocate for the staff, say pushing for flexible hours or a work-from-home exception, they risk leadership labeling them as too emotional or not aligned with the business. But the second they have to turn around and enforce management's strict return-to-office mandate, well, the employees immediately write them off as heartless. It is a literal crossfire. Damned if you do, absolutely damned if you don't.
Things get even darker when we look at the face of toxicity.
You want to know what's really crazy? In a toxic work environment, leadership will literally use HR as a human meat shield. Think about how rules actually get made. The massive, unpopular decisions, the strict new policies, that awkward, agonizing silence during a company crisis, 9 times out of 10, that's coming straight from the top. It's leadership, not HR. But who has to send the company-wide email? HR. Who has to sit in the cold conference room and deliver the awful news? HR. They're left completely exposed, defending decisions they didn't even make.
And the ultimate irony here, when things really hit the fan, HR gets fired too. If that toxic culture boils over, or there's some massive PR disaster because of a terrible leadership decision, HR becomes the convenient scapegoat. They lose their livelihoods over messes they didn't cause, and half the time, they weren't even allowed in the room until it was time to clean the mess up.
And man, online culture does not help the situation. Social media has basically cemented HR as the ultimate corporate villain. If someone gets fired or feels treated unfairly, they jump on TikTok or LinkedIn to vent, and the comments are always identical. HR is wicked. HR totally failed them. HR is a joke. This whole public narrative completely strips away the nuance of their position and just assigns them 100% of the malice.
But there is a silent fight going on that most people completely miss.
Yeah, there's a whole other side to this story that you're never going to see trending on social media. Most folks have no idea how hard HR is fiercely fighting behind the scenes. We're talking about unseen, grueling battles, trying to wring approval for better, more humane policies out of a reluctant executive board, quietly protecting someone's job when their manager is just having a bad day, or desperately trying to fix a toxic culture when they've been given literally zero budget or support to actually do it. They do all the heavy lifting in the dark.
And their reward for fighting the good fight? If they push leadership too hard to improve things, they get branded as difficult. But if they don't push hard enough and things stay miserable, employees call them useless. It's an unwinnable crossfire where their successes are totally invisible and their failures are super public.
So, moving forward, how do we actually fix this together? First off, if you are an employee, your biggest takeaway from this explainer should be this: HR is not always your enemy. You really need to recognize that they are often genuinely trying to make your work life better, but they're operating inside incredibly rigid limits set by the people who sign their paychecks. Maybe give them just a little bit of grace. Now, if you're an employer or you're sitting up there in upper management, you've got to stop expecting a magician. You can't just hand an HR team a deeply toxic culture and expect them to magically smile it away. You need to actually give them tangible support, real authority, and the executive backing to do the job you hired them to do.
And hey, if you are an HR professional watching this right now, here are your survival steps. Number 1, protect your mental health first and foremost because the burnout in your field is incredibly real. Number 2, document absolutely everything so you're protected when the crossfire starts. And number 3, build genuine allies on both sides of the aisle. And above all else, please remember that your work actually matters, even if nobody's standing up to clap for you.
So, to sum up this crossfire reality, HR sits right smack in the middle of organizational pressure and real human lives. They are somehow expected to pull off this crazy paradox, to be deeply human but totally unshakable, to be warm and empathetic, yet strictly firm, to be the highly visible face of the company while staying completely silent about the tough decisions they're forced to execute.
I want to leave you with this final provocative thought. The next time you're frustrated at work and you're just getting ready to aim all your blame directly at HR, take a deep breath and ask yourself this: am I reacting to the person or to the system they're stuck inside? Because the truth is, most of the time, that HR rep sitting across from you is just trying to survive the exact same broken system that you are. Think about that the next time you get an email from Human Resources. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.